If you're interested in running a successful multi-six-figure clinic, you're in the right place, because today I'm talking to Martyn King, who has a very successful clinic in the Midlands. He runs an aesthetic clinic. He's also a trainer. He's on various professional bodies and boards, and he's very active in raising standards in aesthetic medicine. So without further ado, let me get Martyn to introduce himself and say a little bit about himself, and then we're going to ask him some questions around how he runs the systems that are behind his very successful clinic. So Martyn, thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to me on this recorded video. I know you've got presentations to do for various international meetings and talks that you're giving, so I'm very grateful to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into aesthetic medicine, and a little bit about your clinic.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm Martyn King. My background is general practice. I've had my own private practice for about 20 years, mostly working in aesthetics, offering the whole spectrum of treatments, employing a few staff. I do sit on various boards. I'm the Vice Chair of the Joint Council for Cosmetic Practitioners. I'm the current Chair for the British Association of Sclerotherapists. I've got a couple of businesses, and yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
Well, you're very modest, Martyn. I know you're extremely busy. Not only do you run a successful clinic, which a lot of us in the audience would aspire to, but you also are very busy professionally, both in teaching, raising standards, and all the various teaching that you do and demonstrating and so forth. So tell me, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, we all know really that most practitioners are good at what they do. So whether it's aesthetic treatments on the face, whether it's aesthetic treatments on the legs for spider veins and so forth, most practitioners don't have a problem with actually doing the treatments. What they do have a problem with often, because it's not our background as healthcare professionals, is actually running a successful clinic. And one of the systems that you and I, I'm sure, will agree is important is the diary systems, the way of recording patient records, and keeping really every touch point that a patient has with the clinic or a client has with the clinic. How do we go about recording that? Because I remember in the old days, and you probably do as well, I don't know how long your clinic has been established, we had paper records and then we moved digitally. What would be your advice around that, Martyn?
Haroon, I think the first thing is you've said a couple of times about a successful clinic, and just before we start, I just wonder, what do we mean by success? Because success to me nowadays is very different to what success meant to me 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I was really interested in being the very best and getting my face in every paper and every presentation, being at every conference, lecturing, working, training for lots and lots of different companies and things. And I've been there, I've done that, and there's a lot of new people in the industry now, and so success to me now is actually more about actually doing a bit less and having a bit more like home life balance, really. So I think when you're looking at success, decide, if you're starting out now, look what your goals are, look what you want to achieve longer term, because some people it is you want to be in every paper, every presentation, you want to be the very best, you want to be talked about, you want to be lecturing. Some people want a nice life. Some people want to create a really nice clinic which is very holistic and good for patients. So I think the best advice really is, what are actually your goals that you want to achieve if you are starting out in business? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it professionalism? So is it education, academia? So look at what you want to achieve first is my first advice. I wasted a lot, you say I've got a successful clinic. I wasted a lot of money, a lot of time when I first started, and looking back in retrospect, I mean, I'm hoping these few words I can give you would help people who are starting out. But one of the things I would say is one of the things worth investing in is a proper diary management system, a CRM system, something where you um, have everything you need really. It can do your marketing, it can do your business, it can do your accountancy. There's some really good systems out there, really clever systems, really interactive, really user friendly. You've got your diary on there, you've got potentially online bookings, you've got automatically sends out all information, automatically sends out consent forms, aftercare leaflets, pre-treatment, medical histories, and it all gets logged. You can take all your photographs, it all gets logged. So invest in a good system. Just because I did start out in paper, obviously, we didn't have these electronic means then. And I've think I've used four different systems over the time. Some of them have been hybrid, some of them I've used cloud technology. Um, but every time you change system, it creates you so much stress because it will only export and import a certain amount, and you either lose data or you have to have somebody extracting that data and inputting it manually. So it's worth spending more money in the short term to get a really, really good system and speak to your colleagues, see what's right for your industry, but get a really good system in place. And if it costs you more in the short term, it will save you a lot of money in the long term.
Yes, I think that's very good advice. I mean, like you, I started out with a paper-based system and we added bits on. We added on a
Mm.
diary, we added on a separate accounting system, and it all got very, very confusing. We had to have four or
Yeah.
five different windows open on the computer, even just to make it work. And we didn't actually integrate everything until the pandemic, when we were forced to do so, when we couldn't really go back to the filing cabinet in the clinic and pull out the notes. When I was getting queries from patients, either by email, and I couldn't really work out what the past history was. So we scrapped everything and went online, or good content management system, in 2020. So very late
Mhm.
to the game, really, late to the table. Are you would you mind telling us what system you use? I know that there are going to be different systems out there, and that everyone has to do their own due diligence with regard to choosing the one that's best for them. Which one did you choose, Martyn? Would you share that?
Yeah, well, I did my own system initially, then I went on to eClinic, then I went on to something called My Office, and I'm actually on something called Forest now, which I think for purely medical, I wouldn't actually recommend. It's very much more a beauty and a salon software, but I've actually made a lot of amendments to it and tailored it and created a lot of my own forms. So the actual diary system, logging in the on your phone, on your iPad, and everything, it works really well for me and the rest of the staff because we can all access each other's information. But really, what I would prefer in a system is something where you can actually do your treatment records a little bit more thoroughly. So for example, if I'm doing sclerotherapy, I've actually got a Word document where I can record everything, but I've also got then pictures where I can actually annotate and record as well. And I think that's not part of the clinical system I've got at the moment. And I may not relish in this, but I may have to think about changing again at some point. But yeah, that's what I'm using at the moment. But there's lots and lots of options out there, and there's you do tend to get what you pay for.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. Just disclosure, I use Clinico, and I'll put the link to your system in the description, if you don't mind, Martyn, and the link to the system that I use. We neither of us have any affiliate marketing with these. We don't get any kickbacks. It's what we use. One thing I would say, and I hope you agree, Martyn, there's no perfect system.
No.
There's no one system that's going to suit everybody. And as you have done, and I do as well, we have to modify some of the systems. I like Clinico because I can design my own consent forms. I can upload unlimited numbers of photographs. It's got an SMS system for appointment reminders. I can even SMS patients after their treatment and ask them how they're getting on. And all those direct replies come back onto my phone within the app rather than giving out my own telephone number or my own uh, WhatsApp number, for example. But I agree. I think content management system absolutely essential.
Yeah,
Um,
the system I've got does pretty much the same in that, and I have had to customize it. Um, it does actually do a lot more. It does actually. It will create an app for me where people can download it on the App Store to book
uh,
appointments and things. I've never used that, and I think there was something you said about touch points. I'd rather have people speak to my front of house, my clinic manager, because
yes,
I just think the personal touch, once you've got
yes,
that human touch,
yes,
it's a lot more powerful than somebody just clicking a button on an app. But it does
yes.
do, I'm not using all the functions of it. I'm aware of that.
Hmm. Yes, I think that's good. I mean, I don't know what your impression is, but I think people before they make a decision about which practitioner to choose, they usually pick up the phone. Is that your experience?
Um, for the patients that I want to have in my clinic, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think I mean, working in aesthetics, it's like the Wild West out there, and you have a lot of younger people who are just very price sensitive and Groupon
Yeah.
culture, and they
Yes.
just so the patients that I want to have are the ones that have done the research, looked into the practitioner, and are happy to pay that little bit more for the quality of
Yes.
service.
I agree. I agree with that. Now, tell me, you touched upon a very important point very early on, which is that when you started out, you had different aims and different aspirations than you do now. Now you want to be less within the clinic and within the business and be working on the business rather than actually perhaps at the syringe end. You want to be overseeing what goes on in your clinic. And I think a lot of practitioners have that aspiration but don't know how to achieve that. Tell us a little bit about that, Martyn. I see you've got the systems in process. Um, I think one of the things that a lot of people find difficult is delegating.
Um, Haroon, you've hit my biggest flaw.
Yeah,
um, I am not great at delegating, and I think when you run your own business, you are so passionate
yeah,
about it, and
yeah,
I find it a lot easier to do things myself than trying to delegate because I'm ending up correcting. I'm having to spend so much
yeah,
time in teaching them, but that is a flaw of mine, and for the benefit of everybody doing that, I say don't be a busy idiot. You do need to set time aside for strategy, and planning and actually investing in your staff. And it if I would went back, I would actually take somebody on who could do a lot of the stuff that I am doing, whether it's like the accountancy, whether it's some of the I don't do much of the social media in fairness, but things like that. There's a lot of things that you can delegate out, and I think you need to be a lot more strategic. So
yes.
I definitely agree with you, Haroon. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, but I think
No.
that is natural skill.
Well, I think most doctors and nurses who are involved in either an aesthetic treatment or a vein clinic, we all believe, don't we, that we are, and we aspire to it, and we try in our training to be the best we possibly can at what we do for the patient or for the client. And we don't believe that anybody else can do it as well as we. So I don't think that's a flaw that you have uniquely, Martyn. I mean, I have the same myself. Nobody can do a vein treatment like me. I used to believe, but the delegation and a lot of the things that you mentioned, I actually outsourced. So things like accountancy and bookkeeping, training, all that was outsourced. That is, uh, resuscitation training, for example. But training within the business, I think, is very important. Did you ever get to the point, Martyn, where you felt you could train someone to do what you do, whether it be an aesthetic treatment on the face or a sclerotherapy treatment on the leg? Would you ever delegate that?
I mean, we have staff and we have people that, do come in. So we have nurses who will work in the business as well. And we are a training practice. So we do train on a lot of procedures, and we do a lot of B300 training for nurses doing their prescribing courses. So we do have a lot of people coming in. The problem is it's quite hard because when you set up the business, you are the business, and as you say, you always think you're the best that there ever has been. When you starting off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm older now and I'm wiser now, and you know, um, yeah, people pay to come and see me, and that's the problem. And to convince them to see somebody else is actually quite tricky. And
Yeah.
I am doing it because I do realise, I am getting older, and we do need some business kind of contingency from that. But yeah, people do want to see me as the owner, the director, and the person who,
You're the best. They want to see you. That's inevitable, isn't it? All right. Okay. Well, look. Tell me. We've covered CRM, records, diary. We're all now moving on to digital and cloud-based and app-based systems that we can view on our phone, and you've outlined the essential features. Tell me about those who are setting up an aesthetic clinic. How much should they spend setting up? What's the sort of minimum spend that you think they should make? What should be their strategy in actually setting up the physical presence of their clinic?
this is something again with the uh, retrospectively looking is something where I did make mistakes. I went out and I bought the best laser machine, the best body machine, and we spent 160,000, and it
Oh,
took us several years to pay that off. And we had the all singing and all dancing kit. And for example, I know I'm talking aesthetics and, like, for example, hair reduction. Nobody's bothered what machine you've got. They just say, how much are you charging for, hair removal on a leg? Now, if I've got £100,000 machine, or, a £5,000 machine from China, they don't care. So, uh, in aesthetics, it's different. There's a lot of treatments you can do in aesthetics, such as botulinum toxin treatments, filler treatments, dermapen treatments, chemical peels. They cost you virtually nothing to do these treatments. You've got absolutely no capital investment, really, apart from the actual stock that you need. So I tend to uh, advise people who are starting out in aesthetics now, start with the things that aren't going to cost you a lot of money. Build your client database up. Get really, really good at doing your core work, and then start to expand, and then start to introduce some, microdermabrasion, some laser treatments. But also by then, um, like I say, when I first started, I paid, hundreds of thousands, really. I can get machines now that that are selling for 40, 50,000 for 10 or 15,000, because I've got these reputations. I work with people, quid pro quo. I do some trial work for them. I will do some talking. I will advertise it for them. If not prostitutional, I am very much that I'm based on the science and the evidence, and if I can get some good results with it and do some case studies with it, I will talk about it. But I honestly say, don't go for the very, very best and the most expensive for everything when you start. Get your database, get happy with, and get good at what you're doing first. Haroon, you're probably a bit better to talk about the specifics. I mean, in terms of sclerotherapy, what kind of ultrasound machines, and ultrasounds, they've come down. Technology has got better, and prices have come down. I mean, some of the Clarius machines now, they're so affordable.
yes, yes, they are very good. Well, do you think, I mean, we're talking about ultrasound machines in a vein practice. I mean, for people, nurses, perhaps doctors whose main specialty isn't phlebology or they're vein specialists, do you think they can introduce microsclerotherapy for the treatment of leg spider veins without necessarily buying an ultrasound machine or necessarily buying some of these fancy bits of kit?
100%. I mean, when I said about introducing treatments which aren't going to cost you money, if you're doing your basics for doing smaller veins, you don't need a lot of kit.
No.
Um, yes, we do have ultrasound, but I don't actually use it that often. If I'm doing, microsclerotherapy. I don't need to, but as soon as, and for doing a Doppler for your saphenous and your popliteal, I mean, you can buy a hand. It's a few quid. It's not actually that much money at all. So
No.
doing a basic assessment of the legs, it's not going to break the bank by any stretch. Yes, if you're doing foam sclerotherapy onto some quite difficult truncal veins, yeah, you're going to need a decent bit of kit to identify them and work it out. But no, for the basic stuff, and I would say it's one of these things with interest. If you start on the simple stuff and you get good and you've got that interest and you really enjoy it and you expand your knowledge and you expand your training on it, it will naturally flow.
Yes. Yes. Essential. So yes, I mean you can treat spider veins on the face and you can treat spider veins on the legs with a very low capital investment. And as you say, if you're treating aesthetic conditions on the face, the signs of aging, the signs of volume loss on the face, these can be done with a very low capital cost. And as you say, they could be your bread and butter and be most of your revenue for your clinic without very much revenue. We all get excited about new bits of kit, and we're sometimes tempted by the reps to get our checkbook out or to commit to an expensive lease, and then we regret it as we have to repay the loan or it's not really a good return on investment. So I think that's very good advice, Martyn, for someone who's starting out. Um, Now, we talked a little bit about staff training. How do you organise your staff training?
Yeah, it's difficult because it's so easy to neglect it. I mean, the most expensive and most important part of your business is staff,
Yes.
and um, they make or break you. Basically, you can be the best practitioner in the world, but if you haven't got the right staff for the job, then you're kind of doomed to start. And when I employ, I'm not looking for somebody who's got the best qualifications. I'm looking for somebody. I'm employing more on personality and ethics and people skills more than on what they can do. But you can train most people to do most things really for what we need to do. Um, so I want somebody I can work with. At the end of the day, we're a clinic, we're a small team. We have to get on. We're like a family, and that's how I employ people. It's very much these family principles, and then train them afterwards. I've kind of deflected your question there in terms of training. Yeah, we are CQC registered. I am obliged to do the statutory training. And we tend to put this in, we tend to diarise it now. And we use online platforms for a lot of them. And we do send them on specific training where required in terms of treatments and making sure they're getting the appropriate CPD. But in terms of the statutory training, that I would say you need to do that. So put it in the diary, set aside, every so many months, just put a day aside, make sure that they're done. Online platforms are quite good for a lot of this, but then allow enough time to make sure people have understand that. So yeah, it's important. It needs doing. It is boring. There's a lot of paperwork. I mean, if you're CQC registered, you will know that you've got folders and folders of information, but it needs doing. So just put it in the diary.
That's very good advice. It's very easy to overlook the staff training log, have an inspection by a regulatory authority, and then find that you're criticised because the staff aren't adequately trained. And I think staff appreciate good training, don't they? It's one of the things that staff really enjoy and feel that they are worthy of good investment if you do that.
Yeah, they might argue different when they're having to do training on things like radicalisation and things which they just see as totally irrelevant, but it needs doing.
It needs doing. Yeah, some things are just tick box, aren't they? You've just got to
Mm.
get your head down, tick the box, and move on. Now, Martyn, not all aesthetic clinics need to be CQ registered, do they? CQC registered, rather. You chose to be CQC registered, or was it a requirement in your business?
No, and um, a, most clinics are not CQC registered because they don't need to be for what we're doing at the moment. You'll probably know at the moment that it's under consultation and with the government with the licensing scheme, and they're likely to introduce a RAG system, a red, amber, green system. And some of the procedures will need to be CQC registered. And if you are CQC registered, it will probably avoid some of that duplication in terms of what you need to achieve. So, for example, PDO threads at the moment, which I do a lot of, you have to be CQC registered for that. And if you're not allowed to do it, which is a little bit ironic because if you're a beauty therapist, you can do it because you're not regulated by the CQC. They only regulate medical people. So we've got this system now. We've got a lot of really good doctors and nurses out there who can't be doing PDO threads because they're not CQC. But if you fall outside their remit, they can do it. So it is kind of crazy. I thought it was important for myself, also as a GP background, I do a lot of more medical. I do prescribe for certain conditions, so I've got quite a large remit, so I can treat disease and disorder. And there is a fine line between it as well. Are we just treating for aesthetics, or are we treating for mental health reasons? Are we treating for medical reasons? And I just think there's a fine line between the two. And I think if you're covered both bases, if I'm medical and aesthetic or cosmetic or whatever, then we're kind of covered. I do a lot of things like minor surgery procedures as well. So I think, I do need to be. But again, if you're just starting out, licensing scheme aside, then when you are CQC registered, I mean, that's how much do we pay? It's a couple of £1,000 a year. It's a lot of extra tick boxes. It's a lot of extra stress when you first register. Like I say, you have folders of information. So if you don't need to register, then I would say in aesthetics, I think for sclerotherapy, even if you're treating, the cosmetic, very fine ones, I still think there's a large element of treating disease and disorder, because even with cosmetic ones, you probably have got a little bit of underlying venous disease underneath. So I would say for pure sclerotherapy, you should be CQC registered from the start. But if you're going into aesthetics and you're dipping your toes in it and you don't want to be spending a lot of money and time and stress initially, don't do it straight away, but be fully aware of it and what it entails.
Now, CQC registration is a big deal, isn't it? I mean, I recall when it was the old Healthcare Commission, which then moved on to the CQC, and we were really quite daunted by having to interpret the rules and regulations. What did they mean? How could we meet these standards? How could we evidence and document it? I think in retrospect, it was hard doing it ourselves. What advice would you give to people who are perhaps thinking of going CQC register? Should they do it themselves? Should they hire a company?
Yeah, I'm in exactly the same position as you. So we registered with the Healthcare Commission back in the day, and we actually used a company, and they basically had, off the peg documents and just bolted our names on it basically. And when they came in to do the inspection, they say, yeah, we've seen these documents hundreds of times, and yeah, we'll tick this box, tick this box. When I went for CQC, I actually thought I don't want to do that because I need to understand the documents and actually put a little bit of brain work behind it. So it was very, very good that I had all the groundwork, if you like, but then I wanted to tailor it because some of it just didn't apply. Even though it was a tick box, it didn't apply, in terms of where my clinic was, how it was set up, building layout, what kind of chemicals I have in the building, that kind of thing. So I actually went through it all, and it was actually quite a good process, and it was quite a good learning process. So I quite enjoyed doing it. But for somebody who's never done it, I would suggest using a company, but then I wouldn't suggest that you just put your name on it and then just put it in the cupboard and just say, well, that's a box tick. I would say use a company, but go through it all and personalize it for yourself.
Yes, good advice. And your time is precious. I mean, developing all these policies and procedures takes time, and you're better off treating patients and outsourcing that, I think. But modifying it in the way that you've described, I think, is very good advice. Now,
Haroon, just on that note, when I say read it and modify it, I went through all the clinical
yes,
relevant policies, and I
yeah,
had a manager going through all the operational kind of policies, and the operational policies are probably twice as much as the clinical. So I agree, you don't want to be spending too much time. And in fairness, she went through all the operational ones and then summarised them for me, so I was aware, but it meant I didn't have to go through line by line on that.
no, no. You touched on the fact that you have a manager. Is that manager medically nurse, has a nursing or medical background?
No,
No.
no, but
So,
been with me for almost 20 years, so she's pretty much my work wife, really. So she knows how I work and how I like things, and
yeah,
this is what I'm saying about staff. You need to have somebody that you can work with, who you can trust, and
yes,
who's really got your back.
yes, of course. Okay. And now you've touched on appointing staff. Do you have a formal interview process? Do you record? Do you advertise? Do you have a job specification? Do you have a series of questions that you ask at these interviews?
We obviously put in place everything we need to do in terms of job
Yes.
spec, contracts of employment, and it's the same with everything. It's our consent forms from one side of A4 when we first started 20 years ago. They're now like three sides of A4, and it's same with my employer's handbook and everything. I think we're up to about
Yes.
100 pages on that now,
Yeah.
because you do have to just cover your back. Um, We've been quite fortunate that we have a very low turnover of staff, so people have kind of stayed with us for years and years and years. And we're also quite fortunate that we tend to employ on recommendations and people that we've known for a while.
Yeah.
So I think it employment is really, really tricky. And you really,
Yes.
and we have been bitten at our clinic. We have made a couple of mistakes. Um, but no, as I said earlier, I tend to go on personality and people you can work with, because I think most people, with half a brain, you can actually train and mould and get them to fit in with what you want to do, rather than going for somebody. And in fact, if anything, people who come who already think they're the best and really trained, and to untrain somebody is far harder than training somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Mm.
think that's right. Well, I think your business sounds very much like mine. In 20 years, we had two managers. You've had a manager for 20 years. And we have also had low staff turnover. Um, what do you think the main reason for your staff leaving has been in the past? Is it because they
Um,
want promotion or they want a job change or a career
Haroon, it's far
change?
simpler.
Sorry, so
Maternity. It's far
maternity.
simpler. Maternity.
Right, we
Having
better not.
children.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we better not
Having
go there.
children.
Do you
Mm.
outsource your HR, by the way? That was something that we found was very difficult. You say it's tricky, but employment law is complex. And we actually used to have, we outsourced our HR advice. Is that something you did or you had?
No, we're not that big a team, and we don't get that much turnover, so we've never really had it. So everything is kind of done internally. We have a patient ambassador for our clinic, and she's legal background and works with HR. So I've always got somebody I can speak to if I need to about it. But it's not been an issue. I potentially could be laying myself open if I need to. Um, we do. I mean, I don't know if you'll remember, Haroon, but you've probably heard of the Federation of Small Businesses.
Yes.
So I've been a member of them since I very first started. I just think they're a worthwhile company. I've never had to use them for anything, but I've paid as I just think they're a worthwhile company. They will offer me HR advice if I need to. Um, But it
you've never had to discipline anyone or lay somebody off on a disciplinary matter
once,
once.
but um, it was something. It it was we provided them with a way out rather than having to go
Good.
through a
Right.
process. And I think,
Right.
and even my work in general practice where we've had to get rid of staff, I think it's not pleasant for the employer or the employee when you have to go down disciplinary and have to provide evidence and things. So I think when you've got to that kind of stage, I think providing somebody with a fairly easy way out
Hmm.
is, because it's stressful for
It
everybody.
is.
And I just think you don't need that stress. Provide them with an easy get out because they know, it's untangible. We're a small team. They're not going to work with you. You're not never going to get that relationship back. So I think provide a nice way out is probably again another good bit of advice.
Yeah. Do you think having more than one colleague in a network or more than one clinic in a network is helpful? Because clearly, if you are the face of your clinic and you're away, or you suddenly become ill, or you have a family commitment unexpectedly, can that be helpful, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, aesthetics is quite different to vein treatments here in the fact that you know there's everybody's seen, one man and his dog is setting up doing Botox now. You can get it in the hairdressers in the back of the florists or whatever. So, and you hear some really quite nasty stories about competition and people, they're slating each other on social media. I just think that's the worst quality in a person we can do. And I totally don't, and I completely dissociate myself with anything like that. But when you're talking to people who are actually your peers and at your own level, you just don't find that competition. So there are clinics around me with doctor-led clinics. Within 5-10 miles of me, and yes, I work very very closely with them and happy with
Good.
them. And if I'm going on holiday or something and I need somebody that I can really trust, yeah, I'll send them a message, I'm going away. If my clinic phones you, will you be able to
Yes.
look after them? And the other thing is, professional associations, obviously biased here with being the chair of the British Association of Sclerotherapists, but join an association. They're a good resource for networking, for other practitioners, for just general advice, and for ongoing education in CPD.
I'll put a link, Martin, in the description box below of some of the professional bodies that you think might be worth associating with. Some of them, because you are a high profile figure, some of them will be ones that you are on the board. But nevertheless, I think the British Association of Sclerotherapists is one that I think anybody who's treating small veins by microsclerotherapy should consider. And some of the other aesthetic ones, which I'm not quite so familiar with, I'll put links in the description box that you can perhaps send me as ones to
Okay.
consider. You also talked during this conversation about capital equipment, and I think you suggested that when you start off, don't invest in fancy equipment. Perhaps develop your skills with injectables, um, uh, Botox fillers, um, and microsclerotherapy, perhaps some treatments by electrocoagulation for face veins. And then as your client base develops and your reputation within the area develops, you can then make um, some capital investment. Tell me, just off the record, which bit of kit do you think has made you the most money for your clinic? Put you on the spot, Martin.
Um, do you know I've got a plasma sublimation pen,
What the
and
heck is that?
it's plasma sublimation. It's basically like it's a bit like cautery, but it sublimates. It fires a spark, and it's very
Ah,
good for burning things off. But it
ah,
doesn't create any heat dissipation to the surrounding tissue. So from a
ah.
cosmetic point of view, I can remove tiny little lesions off eyelids, and it's fantastic. And they cost 6,000. I didn't pay a penny for it because I work for the company, but they cost £6,000. And I tell you something, since COVID, the amount of people I've got that come to my clinic with seborrheic keratosis, warts, skin tags, and we charge 150 for skin lesion removal. It takes me 10 minutes to do, and I have to buy a tip that goes on this little pen, and it cost me, I think, £4 for this tip, and it's in use 3 or 4 times a day.
Right. Link in the description box below, Martyn. That sounds like a top one. Okay. And any last advice for the audience, perhaps, who are starting their clinic or want to level up and improve things? One sentence, Martyn, on the spot again.
I think we've covered quite a lot of really. What I would say is, obviously, you'll upload this, and you've got your whole group that will watch this. I would just say, if anybody wants to reach out to me, they're more than welcome to do so. Or if you they want me to do a specific talk with you again on another subject, or
Yes.
something they want me to focus on, I'm more than happy to do it, Haroon.
That's great. Well, that's very kind. I'll put, with your permission, you can send me links to contact you. I'll put that in the description box below as well. Martyn, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to us. I know you're horrendously busy with various conferences you've got to prepare for as an invited guest speaker, and all the association work you have to do. It's very kind of you to give up your time. Much appreciated. I no doubt will be invited to talk again. But thank you once again, Martyn.
It's a pleasure.